By the early 90s, Mega Man was not something to sneeze at. With the monumental success of Mega Man 2 and selling incredibly well, it seems like the fine folks at Capcom took this as an opportunity to completely milk the franchise dry by releasing a Mega Man game every single year. Unsurprisingly, this was the type of thing that would cause a lot of oversaturation within the series, especially during the 2000s. But okay, we're not there yet. Now, as you may have noticed in my last two videos, I didn't really add anything to the table when discussing those games, mainly because my views on those games lines up with the majority opinion. However, with Mega Man 3 and onward, I'm gonna start having a lot more to say, because discussion of Mega Man 3 through 6 tends to be where opinions start to have a lot more divisiveness. And with the amount of new additions and experimental ideas, as well as sharing my own personal takes, that's going to piss statistically at least one person off. Yeah, that's going to be a lot to cover. And with Mega Man 3 and 4 especially, both games add and change a lot to the classic Mega Man formula. So hopefully that explains why I grouped these two games together. I know that may have seemed a bit random. So let's stop wasting time and discuss what changes Mega Man 3 and Mega Man 4, both on the Nintendo Entertainment System, brought to the franchise. Now, unlike the prior games, Mega Man 3 and 4 have a lot more to talk about in terms of story. 3 has to do with the Robot Masters because they went haywire while buying for crystals to power Gamma. No, not you. This Gamma is a peacekeeping robot created by both Light and Wily that was made
out of a sense of remorse for my past transgressions.
And Mega Man 4 introduces Dr. Cossack. Yes, that is his real name. And Cossack is the one who produces the 8 Robot Masters and sends them after you. I've wanted to prove that he's a better scientist than Dr. Light. I mean, that's a bit petty, but alright. Now, across these two games, Mega Man has received a ton of new upgrades and abilities to his base moveset. Starting with 3, this was the introduction of the slide. Yes, this is such a fantastic move for the character. It speeds up the gameplay a tremendous amount, giving the game a sense of flow and rhythm that was absent in the first two. And it really does change how you approach a level and even a certain enemy type, as a few of them incentivize the use of the slide. This was also the debut of Rush, a robotic dog that essentially replaces the item weapons from the last game. However, the Rush gadgets are leagues better, because their properties I find to be a lot more useful. Now, I don't really use Rush Submarine that much, but Rush Coil and Rush Jet I use all the time. Rush Jet especially is just so broken too, giving you full control over where Rush could go, which allows you to completely ignore platforming sections altogether. It's great. And then with Mega Man 4, we get introduced to the Charge Shot, another massive game changer. The feeling of holding down the button and unleashing an incredibly powerful explosion of death towards an enemy is every bit as satisfying as it sounds, and it further complements the fast-paced and crunchy gameplay that these games are known for. We also have the introduction of Eddie, who will periodically show up and give you weapon and life energy. And I don't know, but just seeing Eddie act like a cheerleader by giving you extra energy is just so motivating. I love him. But in addition to all those, we get even more upgrades in the form of adapters, little collectibles that are hidden within both Diamond Man and Pheromon stages respectively. They function the same as Item 1, 2, and 3 for Mega Man 2, but although the balloon adapter is just Item 1 again, the wire adapter is awesome and makes collecting E-tanks and the like an absolute breeze. Oh and yeah, Rush also makes a return in this one, and he still functions the same as he did the last game, but he's a bit worse here. And yes, I am primarily talking about the Rush Jet when I say this because it's been drastically nerfed this time, no longer giving you full control of Rush anymore. But like, god damn, there's so many upgrades in these two games alone. I'm just so impressed that they came up with this many ideas in a pretty short amount of time. But as for the Robot Master weapons, they're really nothing to write home about. 4 does fare somewhat better than 3 in that regard. However, I like the Magnet Missiles and Search Stake in 3. But everything else is either just an inferior version of the Mega Buster, an inferior version of a previous weapon, or just completely stupid altogether. And the same thing can be said for the weapons in 4. I mean, I guess I found myself using them a little bit more in stages, even when I did go out of my way to go and use them, but they're still nothing all that special. Oh, and also, you can throw that whole logic-based weakness system out the goddamn window because they didn't even bother with these games. Guarantee how dust beats skulls, or how spinning into a shadow makes it weak. Now, given how many new moves you get in these games, the level design should be more innovative and expansive to account for those, right? And, well, yeah, some more than others, but I'd say that both games do a great job in accomplishing this. Mega Man 3's level design is fantastic. They feature really well thought out platforming that requires use of patience and observation, and the gimmicks used in these levels are very fun and creative, thus making a lot of these stages very memorable. There's very little of what I consider to be BS that takes place in any of these stages, and almost everything is made to be as fair and enjoyable as possible. And the slide and rush abilities, for the most part, are put to great use here, and the levels constantly throw new challenges at you that test how well you can truly utilize them. Fantastic stuff all around. Although there's one thing that I find a bit weird about these levels. About halfway through them, you'll hear this whistling sound, and then you'll fight this red guy with a shield. I don't know who he is or why he's here, but that aside, I find these sections with him kind of break the pace of the level a little bit too much for my liking. But I mean, aside from that, the level design is awesome. The level design 4 is where I start to have more mixed opinions. I don't know, man, for pretty much every game in this retrospective, I played the 8 main stages twice in a row, and for both playthroughs, the levels just don't really do much for me in 4. I mean, they're good, they're competently designed, but nothing about them has anything memorable or creative. They all just kind of blend together. They also on occasion suffer from really annoying enemy placement. Like here, where I got hit from this enemy that appeared from a pit with no warning. They also feel the need to plaster spikes and bombless pits all over the place. And I don't know, man, things like that just come off as being lazy. But really, all these levels are just fine, which in of itself is fine. But the previous games, and especially future entries, would do what all these levels do a lot better in my opinion. Now, can I just say that both games have two of the best soundtracks to ever grace the NES hardware. The energy and bounciness that some of these tunes have is simply unmatched. Everything about the way they're composed, the instrumentation, is just so perfect for the type of running and gunning and sliding you're going to be doing. Now, admittedly, I do find 3 better than 4 in this regard. I could say I love 3's soundtrack in its entirety, while 4 still has some bangers, but it also has some that are just kind of forgettable and leave a very weak impression. There are just way too many good songs in these games, man. I would just love to play all of them for you right now, but I can't because we have other things to talk about. Like the presentation. Both games in that regard are fine. 3 more so because of just how varied and weird the stage themes can get. But compared to the last games, these are just a lot more darker and more grounded, which is okay. But I feel like because of this, some of these stages kind of blend together sometimes. Again, these games do not look bad, but they just don't captivate me that much visually. And for being the 3rd and 4th games in their respective series, I feel like this is somewhat of a downgrade. Well, time to talk about the endgame, and boy do we have things to talk about. Now, unlike the first 2 games, the endgame is now split up into 2 sections, adding an additional 4 stages to clear in order to get to Wily. And like most things in this video, one goes about the structure well, while the other simply doesn't. I'm just gonna come out and say, Doc Robot ruins the endgame of Mega Man 3. The sheer existence of these stages makes me mad. You have to replay 4 of the previously beaten Robot Master stages. So right off the bat, the game is shamelessly reusing content because 90% of the time you're going to be faced with the same obstacles and go about them in the same exact way as you did before. Lame. But when we get to the fight themselves, they have to be the most half-assed and laziest battles within the entire series. They don't even give him his own unique moveset. They just copy and paste the patterns of the previous Robot Masters from Mega Man 2. Can you get any lazier? Okay, now, because of that, he's weak to certain weapons depending on who he's copying. But you don't have any of your weapons from Mega Man 2, so you pretty much have to do a bunch of guesswork using different weapons on him until you find the one that takes off more of his health, wasting weapon energy that could potentially be useful for the next fight. And the part that really grinds my double gears is the fact that even though you fight this thing 8 times, most of the time he's only weak to 2 weapons, the Shadow Blade and the Needles. Like, come on, what is this? But after that nuisance is dealt with, Breakman appears and does the same thing as he's been doing all game. What is the deal with this guy? And then we find out that Lamar, your ass you got brain while he snuck off with a game of L plus ratio plus you fell out Lamar. Okay, anyways, now Mega Man has to waltz his way into Wily Castle to stop whatever kind of plan he's up to. And wow, these stages are pretty easy if I'm being honest. They're straightforward, they're really generous with health pickups and E-tanks and the like. The bosses are a bit more challenging, but not by much, and they're really nothing to write home about either. That is, until you get to the final boss and effortlessly take out Gamma with the top spin. Okay. After that, the tower starts to crumble, and the Breakman character comes to save you. And after the incident, it's revealed that A, Mega Man left Wily completely unscathed again, and B, that Breakman guy's actual name is Proto Man, Dr. Light's prototype robot, and the brother of Mega Man. Man, I really love what they did with Proto Man in this game. It makes this moment feel a lot more impactful. And Proto Man in general is just a really cool character. I love his design, I love his shield, and I even love his theme song. Mega Man 4, on the other hand, I'd actually argue that it gets better towards the end. The Cossack stages are a huge improvement over what the 8 main stages had to offer. The aesthetics are leagues more interesting than what the base game had to offer, the enemy placement is less annoying, and the level design has more unique set pieces that make them a lot more fun to play. Those are the things that are missing from the 8 main Robot Master stages, and if they had designs like these or more inspired, I could see the level design leaving more of a substantial impact. However, after you lay the heat on Dr. Cossack, his daughter then gets dropped off by Proto Man, and says that Cossack isn't the real villain, but Wily, who took him as hostage and forced him to destroy you. And now I gotta go to the Wily stages, and this is actually my first time revisiting these stages since the last time I played, and much to my surprise, they are just as good as the Cossack ones, and more or less for the same reasons. Same can't be said for the bosses though, of which still have the flickering issue. When you get to the Wily capsule itself, the boss is one of the more annoying ones. Not so much the first phase, but the second phase where the shots start homing in on you is just annoying. And the shots are so big to the point where it makes jumping over them a total chore at times. After that he escapes, we chase him, and then we're greeted with the most boring final boss within the entire Mega Man series. You dodge the really slow moving projectiles until you see Wily flash to where you can hit him, do that a few times, and you win. But in actuality, of course you don't, because Mega Man quite literally lets Wily escape. Like, what? Are you sure you're not double-crossing Light, Mega Man? Huh? Yeah, whatever. Mega Man escapes the building, hitches around on the train, and that's it. That's all she wrote. That's it for Mega Man 4. And look, the staff pro even has a remix of Mega Man 2's title theme on it. That's so cute. It's so trumpet too, and in a way, it's a bit sentimental and emotional, making you feel like you've come a long way. And you know, that's a really, really good analogy for both of these games. The entire series in just 4 years managed to come such a long way from where it originally began. The charge shot, the slide, rush, eddy, E-tanks, items, just so many different ideas and approaches to that simple, crunchy gameplay style that I've come to adore over the years. Now, just to get this out of the way, I am more of a fan of Mega Man 3 than I am of 4. In fact, I'd probably say that 4 is by no means a bad game, but it's my least favorite game of the series so far. But regardless, both are games that I will always respect. It's just very hard to picture the series without these games, and the various gameplay mechanics that they introduced. It really felt like the devs figured out how to make this formula work. You can even hear it in this very remix, whereas the original sounded great, but you can tell that it definitely was limited in a few places. But when composing this remix, you can tell that they knew what they were doing. They knew how to make a Mega Man game. And Mega Man and Capcom, at this point in time, were simply on top of the world. They were unstoppable.